listen, I left my note, so we we winging it on this nice Wednesday. There are no notes today, so we are doing improvisation. So please, fam, hit that like button. Let me put this over here. Please hit that like button. Please, if you have not subscribed to the channel and all of a sudden you were just scrolling through something because you normally look at stuff political and you ran across here, please subscribe. We have not given up on subscriptions, child. We have not given up. We've been at 84,000 for about 3-4 years. The same way I have been at what have I been? I've been at Instagram 11,000 for about 4 years too. It's just like somebody just, when they started doing the lives, they turned off the spigot. And I don't know when YouTube turned off the spigot, but whatever. Just we gonna try to defeat it. we got hope in our heart. So please, fam, please, hit that like button. Now, we have a little something we gotta talk about. And I know I always say I'm not gonna keep you long, and I'm gonna try this time. I'm not gonna promise because I don't like telling lies. I don't like telling fibs. I'm not a liar. There was something. Because you have to revisit stuff. Do you all remember when Biden got elected and we were talking about, hey, Kamala isn't anchored in our experience the same way Obama wasn't anchored in our experience. He's not ADOS. He doesn't have that history. So just to go and have a sister girl moment with a girl who's not really a sister girl, that is problematic. You all remember we tried to have that conversation, and then people started writing letters. Right, the same way they wrote letters about Supreme Court. That's the same way they wrote letters about they started having. We gotta have Kamala. You gotta have a sister girl. It's gotta be a black woman on the ticket. As if melanin and not political ideology and a commitment to a political ideology that uplifts ADOS is not the key. So we saw a lot of that. And so we have to revisit that. See, one of the things that we don't do is we don't revisit stuff. So I want to just show y'all, we're going to talk a little bit. I just have one thing I want to point out. We ain't going to be here all day. I got one thing I want to point out that's going to, and talk about to just kind of bring this home. How many of y'all remember this article? Y'all remember this? I just had to put the light on a little bit. Ooh, that's a little bit bright. Hold on a second. Do y'all remember this? This was Obama. Obama signs measure funding black farmers settlement. Y'all remember this? Right? And the thing that we do too often is when something happens, we say, oh, they already got the money. The farmers got the money. They got the money. Wait a minute, do they have the money? Well, it's already signed. Everything's in the works. It's gone. Obama did that. He did that. Yes. He got swag. Right? So we fast forward because you can't. First of all, I'm not criticizing nobody, but I'm just saying even in terms of black farmers, you just have to be careful because you can give somebody credit too soon. You can give a political party credit too soon because I see him now on Fox News trying to make his case about we're American farmers, and I salute you. You got to go anywhere you got to go. I salute it. You got to go anywhere you got to go. But sometimes what we do as a community, as ADOS, is what we have a tendency to do is that we will give somebody an award before they cross the finish line. So you come here and we still not at the finish line. Well, what do you mean, Yvette? Well, the finish line has yet. Now, let me just say this. This is something. Like if we were serious about our business, this is something that will have us all on Capitol Hill somewhere. Wait a minute. Y'all mean to tell me that y'all are continuing the land theft that we've been enduring all this time? You mean to tell me that's what we're doing? You mean to tell me that's where we at with it? You mean to tell me that we got black farmers saying in 2022 black farmers were persistently left behind from the USDA's loan system? Do you mean Biden's loan system? Is that what we're talking about? Oh my goodness, we should be able to rally around that. But instead, what are we doing? What is the media doing? What are we doing? Put it in the chat, fam. What is everybody talking about right now? Right? What is everybody talking about right now? Just name something off the top of your head that's making news. I saw a lot of people who were not journalists too at the what do you call it? The White House had a thing, and there was a little man who there was a lot of people there who run gossip blogs. They were there talking about we here with Kamala and she's really a nice person. Okay. Right? We saw a lot of that. What else is going on? What's in the news? Now we done had a lot of stuff happening. So what are Negroes fixing? Like this should be the thing. Like we have had multi-generational theft. They got you war in Ukraine, spy balloons, Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley changed her whole name and said she said I'll throw all of India away. I don't want that name y'all gave me. That ain't even her real name. That's how fast she decided she was gonna integrate directly into whiteness. We'll have all this stuff going on. They want to talk about Trump all the time. They still ain't Trump on not one charge. You're going to have to bring him up on charges or something. Shut up. You can't keep talking about that. But what we're not talking about as a community is this. And let me just say this. Fam, you only control the way you control your politics. You can't control your politics if you don't control the lens. Well, what are you talking about, Yvette? What are you talking about? You can't control your politics if you don't control your lens. I don't understand what Yvette is saying. I was listening to that, but I didn't really understand what she was talking about. The lens through which you view the thing. So you can't even focus the thing on, not only can you not focus the people, not only are we not able to focus, we can't even focus ourselves. When something starts happening, we start talking about it too. I don't recall. Maybe I have. I don't think so. I ain't talked about that spy balloon. I ain't going on about, the spy balloon's not up there. And what is that? I've wondered about a lot of stuff, but I can't. And sometimes I'll take some time off Twitter to have some fun. I'm human. But like we have to control the stuff we focus on. We can't control what other people focus on as a movement and what is important to our community if we can't control what we focus on. We can't even control what the reporters focus on. Don't believe me? Watch this. Lucius Abrams is the third generation to take over the family Georgia farm, an operation that has long grown cotton, corn, and soybeans. When he did not receive a loan in time to buy the seeds and supplies he joined the Pickford versus Glickman class action lawsuit against the USDA. The 1999 lawsuit alleged that in myriad ways, the agency discriminated against black farmers, resulting in uneven distribution of farm loans and assistance. This caused many black farmers to lose their land and farms to foreclosure. Pickford plaintiffs like Abrams were supposed to receive payments after the case was settled in 1999. However, tens of thousands missed out due to confusing paperwork, filing deadlines, and what neared attorney malpractice, advocates say. Now let me come out of here for 1 second to say one thing. All of this is intentional. Sometimes you got to understand when that's just intentional. When it's set up in such a way that you are supposed to fail. Well, we'll just make it so hard and we'll make a maze and a labyrinth and they're going to have to jump around stuff. They're going to be confused and all kind of stuff. So it's set up in such a way that, yes, you are not going to be successful in terms of how you're doing what you're doing. That's the way it's set up. It's designed that way. And sometimes you have to see the design. But you're not going to see the design if you're not willing to follow through and follow this thing piece by piece. Everybody celebrated like all the farmers got cut checks, and that's not what happened. If you want to make a settlement or anything, if you want to make a classroom successful for your students, you can do it. I don't care what they're going through. If they're hungry, you can make sure that there's food. If they're suffering from something because home life is disruptive, we can deal with that. If they don't believe in themselves or believe themselves to be smart because of what they've been told, we can do. You can set up a situation where people will be successful. This is just a continuation of a land theft. That's all it is. We saw the land theft. This is just a continuation of that. Okay? Understand that. So let me go back to it really quick. Everybody got to know what it is. I don't know. If we don't know what it is, we're going to be in trouble. In 2010, yet like we said, Congress appointed an additional, appropriated an additional $1.2 billion in a second round of payouts, but still many did not receive them due to more denials of claims and deadlines of processing, like we just said. But in addition, many say there has to be a larger culture shift at the department because farmers do not trust their loan applications will be processed fairly if they can even file. Now, so you say that's the way that the farmers feel. Now why would the farmers feel that their stuff wouldn't be handled right? Wonder why? Because Biden kept the same person who was there during the Obama administration. This is the same man who called Shirley Sherrod on the phone and said, hey, I need you to pull over to the side of the road and resign. Resign for what I ain't did. And I've been in this post a long time. Well, you under the first black president, and they about to bring out this right-wing rag is about to bring out something that shows that you discriminated against a white man. Now, we're not going to give you time to explain yourself, you negress. You pull over to the side of the road. This is happening under the first black president. Yes, resign now. Send it to me via your email because we got to get this in before what's the little man's name? What's the little man's name? Not Breitbart. That was the Breitbart publisher, but it was Glenn Beck. We got to get this in before Glenn Beck get it. That's who was there. He was a part of the systemic discrimination that he was trying to fix. Now, are you going to bring in the wolf to protect the hen house? And black farmers said it when he got in there. They said, he don't. And you know what Biden said? Biden said, you got to deal with it. I trust him. I don't care what y'all say. So wait a minute. Remember all those maps we showed a while ago that showed that Biden got in office and the Senate was flipped blue and all this stuff because of black voters? Biden didn't care. He told the NAACP and everybody, we don't care. I don't care how you feel. I trust him. Now y'all gonna have to get along with the Latinos. Y'all remember when he said that? And what we should have said is, if we got to get along with anybody, and if you're gonna do this, then next time you get yourself elected. How about that? If you don't want to hear what we got to say, and you don't want any of our advice in terms of how to pick people, then the next time you get elected, we're going to go on a whole tour to let everybody know that, hey, we're not abandoning the Democratic Party, but we're abandoning you this next term, and we're going to sacrifice a little to get a lot. And so the next time you need us this time around, you won't get us. I don't care whether it's you or you, if you decide you're too old, or if it's Kamala, whatever, you're not going to have us. But see, we don't want to do that. We want to say, well, let's just see how everything work out. Let's just see if we can figure this thing out and work together. Well, now we have a situation. Houston, we have a situation. Let's go back to this article. This is where we were. Let's go right back to this article and start reading some more little quotes about what happened. Right? Indeed, an NPR analysis of USDA data found that black farmers receive a disproportionately low share of direct loans given to farmers, leaving them behind in a program that is important to their livelihoods. The department itself has long tried to fix these systemic problems, but many farmers and advocates remain skeptical that its efforts will ultimately benefit those who need it. I'm skeptical myself. Ain't y'all skeptical? I'm skeptical too. I'm skeptical right there too. The USDA's lending process for the last century is not set up to support non-traditional growers, including the farmers of color. Now watch how they keep doing this. Now, hold on. I'm going to go back to this right here says black farmers. This is what I mean by controlling the lens. This says black farmers. If you're going to write about black farmers, write about black farmers. I didn't ask you about all melanated people or people who not even melanated who get to apply that label. I didn't ask you about that. See, one of the things, and I'm going to go back to that quote, right? But one of the things that we have to start doing is control the lens. If I get halfway through an article that's supposed to be about me, and you start talking about people of color, we have a problem with your lens. People always ask, what is one thing we can do? right? One thing we can do. What's one thing? Well, one thing you can do, like I would editors and reporters who do this, I would write them and say, listen, you only have so much time to focus on black farmers. And there's a historical disenfranchisement and a historical theft and plunder that is only applied to them. And you only have a certain amount of paragraphs to do that. Please do not squander that byline and that article writing about other people. I'm sure you will have other articles where you can talk about those people, but stop forcing us together and cobbling us together in groups. And I think that is something that we should start doing en masse. And whenever you write a reporter, make sure you write their editor. Right? Make sure you write both of them. You can write one and CC the other one. But make sure you tell them we only have a limited amount of time, and you are wasting our time by putting us together with everybody who has melanin, because this is about lineage. You can have a copy letter ready to go where you just insert the name of the article or whatever and say, here, this is a problem. Because what they're doing is they're forcing everybody together. But I don't see y'all do that as much when you talk about Native Americans. I don't see you force Negroes into the article. So let's focus. These are not the same groups. These are not the same histories. And I think it's intentional. But if it's not intentional, it's sloppy and you got to do better. Now let's go back to where we were, because this don't make no sense. This don't make no sense at all. People of color and all this stuff. Come on, man. This don't make no sense. Hold on, let me go back here. Now let's go to this real quick. The USDA's lending process for the last century is not set up to support non-traditional growers, including the farmers of color, like we just talked about, who face rejection and withdrawal rates as a result, said Zach Ducheneau, right? The Farm Service Agency administrator. Now let's go to who. Let's talk about who is that. The first thing, sometimes when you see some, you gotta ask, like, who is that? Who is this person? Right? So let's go to him real quick, because they're gonna talk about him too. But let's just go to him real quick. Administrator, okay. USDA, Washington D.C., okay. He was appointed administrator for USDA's Farm Service Agency on February 22nd, 2021. In this role, Ducheneau, that's his name, child, will provide leadership and direction on agricultural policy, administration, loan programs, and managing conservation, commodity, disaster, etc., and etc. etc. and etc. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Is there anything we should know about him? Okay. The Farm Service Agency is led by Ducheneau, a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe and the first Native American in the role. Prior to being at the department, he served as the executive director of the Intertribal Agricultural Council, an advocacy group for Native American farmers. Not people of color farmers. He served in his role. Listen, he didn't serve in a role of people of color farmers. He served in his role as an advocacy group for Native American farmers. Everybody else seems to understand the power of specificity. Indigenous farmers were also a part of their own lawsuit alleging discrimination against the USDA, and they have long been left out of programs despite having having high direct loan acceptance rates. I take that very seriously, because I've been trying to get them to in the door since way before I got here, he said, according to barriers and access to the department of spans across race groups. My personal goal is to get all of these to as close to 100% as we can. Yeah, everybody got goals, but ain't nobody got success with their goals. Everybody got goals, okay? Everybody got goals. I'm just telling you. Let's go back to the article. So it might be you're a black farmer that's operating on airship property who hasn't had the benefit of a cooperator technical gosh, this stuff seems, I don't know, it just seems written weird to me. A cooperative technical assistance provider right there on the ground with them to help navigate this. Yes, the problem is not multi-generational oppression. It's how to navigate it. It's just you know how to navigate it. That's right, don't you know? Said of black farmers who have owned land for generations but may not know how to navigate USDA's processes. Well, you should have, oh gosh, I don't even, by virtue of the lack of support and support structure around them, they're going to come to the application process less prepared. Black farmers, hold on a second. Let me make sure that one is done. Okay. Black farmers still receive the lowest amount of loans. In 2022, the department granted direct loans to only 36% of farmers who identified as black, according to an NPR analysis of USDA data that looked at how many direct loan applications were accepted, rejected, or withdrawn per each racial group. Direct loans are supposed to be among the easiest to get at the USDA. They are meant for farmers who can't get credit elsewhere and can be used to get land, farming equipment, or other operational costs needed to keep the business afloat. Now notice this, because you got to always, let me say this really quick. You got to always look at something in comparison. Well, that don't look too bad. Maybe, are you sure that, I mean, it could be worse, you know. You got to look at everything in comparison to other people. And then you got to consider who you are in this conversation. Well, what do you mean you better consider who I am in this conversation? Well, you got to consider the fact that you are, or your group is, or these farmers are people who've been multi-generational farmers. They're not people who just got here. They're not people who immigrated here post-1965. They're not those people. Remember, the Immigration Act of 1965 is what allowed a lot of people to come in here. We've been here 400 years, and we still, so don't just talk to me about, well, you know, I mean, you about on par with some people. Actually, no. But even if we were, we should be doing way better. We should be running the farms. If this country were fair, fam, please understand something. Please understand one thing I'm saying to you. If this were fair, we would be the conglomerates. Because farming was always our thing. When you talk about all these people, when you talk about the eggs, when you talk about chickens, when you talk about everything that's farmed in America, we would be on top if stuff were fair. And you're gonna tell us, well, they might just not know how to do the stuff. How come? How come we don't? Maybe there are other things lacking. Right? In addition to discrimination. Y'all remember the article a while ago about how they ran this it was from ProPublica. I can't ever pronounce that right. But you remember it was about how they ran this man off as this black man out, these farmers, the chicken farmers, they got rid of them because they were sending them dead chickens. They were supposed to be sending little chicks. They were sending them dead chickens. They have in the Midwest, I think it's some stuff going on right now too, where they've been harassed by people. That's not even something that comes up on our radar. The only thing we're concerned about is, yes, go sis, yes, sis, yes, Kamala went to Howard, yes, soror. So come back and revisit. How did that soror stuff do? The farmers, it looks like the farmers are telling us it didn't. The farmers are telling us it didn't do too good, right? The farmers are right here. Black farmers in 2022, let's go back and visit the headline. In 2022, black farmers were persistently left out from USDA's loan system. Picking cotton in slavery. Then sharecropping. Your farms are taken, plundered. A lot of those farms were given to white people. In 2022, you still trying to get yours and talking about how Kamala, and you don't want to say nothing bad because you didn't want to feel, but you didn't want to embarrass Barack. Now you don't want to embarrass Kamala. You don't want to say nothing bad because you got somebody in the White House look like you. Ooh, 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 ooh. Sometimes it's so easy to play people. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's go back to this number real quick. In contrast, 72% of white farmers who applied were approved. Perhaps some of the biggest gaps in the loan demographics can also be seen in the rejection numbers, where 16% of black farmers were rejected, the highest amount. The corresponding figure for white farmers was 4%, and 48% of black farmers withdrew their applications. Also the highest amount tied with Asian farmers and compared to 24% of white identifying applicants. By and large, Across the first 2 years of the Biden administration, Black and Asian identifying farmers were the least successful in acquiring a direct loan, data shows. So let's have a look at that data, shall we? Let's have a quick look. See, Black farmers have the lowest approval rate for USDA direct loans. An NPR analysis of the USDA data looked at how many direct loans were accepted, rejected, and withdrawn per racial group. Black farmers who applied for USDA direct loans in 2022 fiscal year were approved at lower rates and rejected at higher rates than any other racial group. So when you see, blacks are right there with Asian Americans. Asian Americans just, for the most part, got here post. We saw some who were here, or the affluent ones. Y'all remember that book we read? I can't remember the name of it just that quick. But okay, so we wait a minute, but we even have more rejected than them, right? Look at that, 36. What? Now remember, green is approved, okay? Now let's go all the way down. That green whatever is approved. So wait a minute. I thought we were just people of color. So we only get 36% approved, but Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian gets 80% approved. I thought we was all in this together, right? Well, but how y'all get so much approved, right? We all experience this discrimination, Yvette. We all go through things, Yvette. We all, ain't that what Nicole Hannah Jones told y'all in that little thing? Well, see, we all in it, and we got to understand who benefits. And it's the white power structure that benefits. And that's why we all got to know the history. No. This is when you look at the Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian, they have a higher approval rating than white people. So how we all in this together? You doing better than the whites. 80% to 72%. Child, these people gonna BIPOC and people of color me crazy. Let me tell you that. Now let's go into it. Let me show you how they twist up the article too. Right? Let me show you how they twist that up. The denials and withdrawals are high. Advocates for farmers of color. Didn't we just see this is not about farmers of color? See, this is why this is some dastardly stuff. They're going to come into the next paragraph and say farmers of color. We just saw that the Pacific Islanders, right, and the Native American Alaskan, they were right up there with white people, and we are right here we done farmed longer than all y'all. We are right here at 36%. This is not a people of color problem. This is a Negro problem. This is not a people of color issue. This is a Negro issue. And they throw you right back down to this people of color conversation. And they take the conversation away from what we need to be talking about. Because we're not talking about people of color. We're not talking about crayons. We're not talking about markers. We're not talking about paint. We're talking about lineage. We're talking about a discrimination of a certain group of people who told Shirley Sherrod, those people who told Shirley Sherrod to pull over and resign are the same people who have been discriminating against us and black farmers and us owning land for generations. That's what we talk about. This is not a farmers of color problem. And we should all start letting people know that when they write this. Part of the reason nobody understands what we're going through is because this is confused in terms of how they write about us. Advocates for farmers of color have argued that rejections and withdrawals often happen because the multi-step application process is too cumbersome and confusing. Those whose families have generational experience and long-standing outside resources to navigate the federal bureaucracy sail through. Hmong, I don't know how to pronounce that. Farmers in Minnesota, for example, may often lease land, but they are not given a written contract. We're not talking about them. If you want to write about them, but start an article about them, let's remind you of how you hooked us into this article. You hooked us into this article saying 2022 black farmers were persistently left behind. Now you're talking about people I ain't never heard of. I don't know the Hmong. What are we talking? I clicked on this article because I want to know about black farmers. And now you're telling me about everybody. If I click on the article about Native American farmers, you usually don't tell me about everybody. You tell me about them. The same way that they go and get specificity in terms of what they're doing. They don't go and get. If you go and look up, and I did it for you. Don't even worry about it. I got it in here somewhere. But you can go look up you remember they said at the beginning of this thing about Native Americans and how they sued for discrimination. Well, if they sued too for discrimination, Native Americans, you got to put them in another article, and everything that they get got to be hitched to that. It can't be hitched to it. They got to be hitched to what they went through. And let me show you something. And I'm not sure if y'all know different, please feel free to let me know. But in the history of the Native American Agriculture Fund, they have a fund now. It's a multi-million-dollar fund that they got after their lawsuit. Right? It ain't enough, I'm sure, depending on what they suffered. I don't know, but they got a fund now, and we ain't in it. We ain't in their fund. That's their fund. In 1999, the Keep Siegel versus Vilsack everything is versus Vilsack, ain't it? Class action suit was filed alleging that the United States Department of Agriculture had engaged in discrimination against Native American farmers and ranchers in loan programs and servicing of loans back to 1981. Well, child, we can take you further than 1981. We can take you all the way back to the end of slavery, child. But I don't see. In 2010, after more than a decade of litigation, the federal government and the parties agreed to a settlement. The original settlement resulted in the creation. And see, we were supposed to. It's a lot of stuff, like the money that we got for Pickford and Glick was supposed to go to do a lot of stuff specifically for us. But instead, you see a whole people of color, and now the white farmers is suing. Like, there's nothing good you can do without specificity. If it doesn't have specificity, it's just going to go to dust. The original settlement resulted in the creation of a $680 million compensation fund, and our settlement was more than that, and it should have been more than what we got. What was it, like $2 billion? And child, don't even talk to the black farmers about the settlements and how that stuff go, honey. But the original settlement resulted in the creation of a $680 million compensation fund, another $80 million in debt relief and tax relief, in addition to other forms of programmatic relief to be instituted by the USDA. A 6-month claims process resulted in approved claims for more than 3,600 Native farmers and ranchers. It just seems like their process went a lot more smoothly than ours. Now, I don't know. If you know, feel free to write me, post it up, tag me, let me know. If you got some inner workings, please let me know, because I am not a farmer. So please let me know. As part of the settlement agreement, a Cypress Fund was created after a significant period of further negotiation. A second compensation payment and additional tax relief to successful claimants was approved, and an additional $38 million in fast-track grants to nonprofit and other eligible organizations to serve Native farmers and ranchers was also authorized.
Here's what I found.
Siri just be talking, child. Be quiet. In 2018, the court directed that the remaining funds be distributed through a newly created Native American Agriculture Fund. Having received final approval to begin its work in 2018, the Native American Agriculture Fund must distribute its funds within a period of 20 years. The Native American Agriculture Fund will provide grants to eligible entities for business assistance, agricultural, education. So they creating new farmers. And educating people on everything, probably how to fill out your paperwork, do all kinds of stuff, technical support and advocacy services to support Native farmers and ranchers. Eligible entities include 501c3 organizations, educational organizations, CDFIs, and Native CDFIs, and tribal governments. I don't see Negro anywhere in there in terms of who is eligible. And I just want to remind everybody, do y'all remember when they sued in late 2022? I think, what's the date on this? What's the date on this real quick? This is December of 2022. Black farmers sue government for promised federal aid. Right? We'll come back to that, but I just want to remind everybody, like, this stuff didn't go as promised. All the black girl magic stuff, it didn't go as promised, ain't it? Just at a certain point, just admit that you don't know what you're doing. Now here's something else. Well, like we said, the language barriers for this group. That's not what this article was about. In some cases, language barriers, yada yada. That's not what this article was about. They can enroll in a foreign business management course, but it's all conducted in English. We're talking about black farmers. Black farmers know English. So you've taken me all the way from the topic. And this particular constituency here does not read or write English fluently. Well, that's not the black farmers' problem. Like, why is this in this article? Or understand, so they can sign up for the farm business course, pay $2,000 a year for this course here. And what did they walk out with? Stress, Jensen said. They walk out with without any adequate information to really enhance or fund operations here, because it is done in a language that they're not familiar with. Well, child, I don't know what to tell you. Peace and blessings, honey. Farmers are also often denied for having low or no credit, despite the USDA being considered the lender of last resort for producers who cannot get credit elsewhere. So you're supposed to be the lenders of last resort. Then you base it on credit, right? The way people are farming is also changing. Urban farms with multiple crops, hemp farms, and others also challenge the loan system, which was originally designed for large one crop systems. Blah, yada, 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 yada. Well, y'all are everybody's so lucky, because guess what? The USDA is seeking to address the issue. Like old people say, issue. Advocates argued that Vilsack did not do enough to help provide equity and fairness to USDA loan processors during his first term as Agriculture Secretary under Obama. Shocker. But you know what? The funniest thing, let me come out of this for a second. This is very interesting. Because no, he didn't. But not only did he do enough, he kept going. He kept with what was already happening. But the thing that's so interesting, at least to me, is that, like, so much of this, you really thought, like, you didn't know that he wasn't doing enough or whatever, because this is all you got from people. All you got from people was Obama. I have people now who still say, who don't talk about any of the problems with Pickford versus Glickman, who don't talk about any of the stuff that stood in the way, who don't talk about years later farms that didn't get the payments. I still got people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, Obama gave them billions. How? Tell me about the whole process. Don't tell me about the start. Don't tell me about the middle. Tell me about the whole process. And that's what people don't want to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about that. Right? So let's go back to this 2019 investigation by the counter found that the department distorted data on black farmers to paint a rosier picture. So wait a minute, now a 2019 investigation. You mean this happened during the first black president's reign? Yeah. While he was president, a 2019 investigation by the counter found that the department distorted data on black farmers to paint a rosier picture. Yeah. The Biden administration vowed to fix the department's history, starting with appointments. But then you put Vilsack right back. Right? So what does that leave us? I'm just trying to figure it out. And then they're talking about building trust. Now let's go back to Pickford really quick. Black farmers are looking for debt relief. Black farmers who should have gotten relief from Pickford say not all the settlements made it to their hands. I'm shocked and appalled. Ain't that something? And as time passed, interest, delinquent payments, and more stacked up against their businesses. We haven't gotten any relief as far as these lawsuits or debt relief, and that will impact me severely, said Rod Bradshaw, a farmer in Kansas, adding that the rising costs of fuel and production are thinning his margins. Yeah, they're going to run you out of business. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something real quick. I'm going to come out of here real quick. Child, They decided what they're going to do for the Negro. They decided slow death is preferable to quick death. They could make sure everybody get looks to me like the Native Americans getting all whatever they settle for, and they doing education. They doing it looks like it's not going that way for them. And then they had the farmers. Then they had to say we're gonna give y'all some debt relief, and then they gave it to all disadvantaged farmers, and the white farmers sued. And I don't blame the white farmers. If you told me, if I'm a white farmer, you told me, hey, I'm not going to give it. I'm gonna give it to everybody who is minority or whatever disadvantaged. So I'm gonna give it to Mexicans and blacks, and I'm gonna give it to the other people who I can't pronounce, and I'm gonna give it to them. I have a problem too. You need to be able to tie it. See, that's why race. It's got to be lineage and not race. That's what the Supreme Court has said to us. It's lineage and not race. So with lineage, we can tie way back to slavery, right? I can tie this to we have a documented plunder tied to melanin, right? I can't do that. And if we had any sense, there would be people, the same people who advocated for Kamala would be up there protesting her right now. And I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about you, because we can't do everything. We can't save everybody just because he was better than Trump or whatever. Whatever you told yourself, you need to go and make it right now. You don't get to just wash your hands of all this stuff. And here we go again with this switcheroo. As part of the Inflation Reduction Act, the Democrat-led spending bill members slipped in a provision that created $3.1 billion debt relief for economically distressed borrowers. Economically distressed borrowers has nothing to do with lineage, and it has nothing to do with the history of plunder. Oh, they will bait and switch you to death. According to the department completed automatic payments towards about 11,000 distressed borrowers who were 60 days or more delinquent, or direct guaranteed USDA loans as of September 30th of last year. USDA analyzed shows over 13,000 producers have received a payment on their accounts as of January the 30th. The payments, however, always a however. The payments, however, are not to all distressed farmers. Are to all distressed farmers. All distressed farmers can get payment, including some white farmers. They may not include all black farmers. The race-neutral program is an alternative to a lawsuit block race-targeted program first passed by Congress. Now you see that, you know something. It's very interesting too, like the kind of stuff that Native Americans kind of get away with. Like they can have something specifically for Native Americans all day, right? But then when it's have something specifically for blacks, it's a problem. Well, I think you have to make that lineage based. And then I want to understand what's the difference. How come y'all can walk off with the Native American money and it's not a problem? I'm not hating, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to figure it out. Somebody got to figure it out. The bill did include $2.2 billion to the Department for Farmers who have been specifically faced discrimination in USDA lending programs. This money is mandated by Congress to be dispersed by third parties or non-governmental organizations. Pay close attention, everybody. Just pay close attention. We're going to come out of here in a second. Now let's go back to this 2020 lawsuit really quickly. It is important. The lawsuit filed in October remains active as the U.S. Department of Agriculture moves forward with another effort to help farmers to face financial distress, discrimination, blah, 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 blah. And when black farmers said, and let me just say this, black farmers weren't loud enough. We got to stop letting people just say anything to us. Let me tell you, if there was anybody who should have come out and support this ADOS movement, me, I need help, it should have been the farmers. That's my thing. I don't understand why it's always us that's got to reach out to you. You need this. This has to be specific, and you obviously don't have anybody. Listen, the reason the head of the black farmers is on Fox News is because he ain't getting no help nowhere. Because what a lot of If it was a Republican president, I could do more. I could do a little bit, but I can't. I'm just saying. President Joe Biden's nomination of Tom Vilsack to lead the Agriculture Department received a chilly reaction from many black farmers who contend he didn't do enough to help them the last time he had the job. Vilsack, a former Iowa governor who served 8 years as agriculture secretary under President Obama. Let me tell you, President Obama did so much trash. Oh, he's such an awful person. I'm sorry. He did so much from Uber, which I think Antonio talked about recently, to and I've talked about before, to he just didn't care nothing about us. And I told y'all he's not us. How am I expecting to? He's a Kenyan white man. I don't even understand. Anyway, has been trying to assure minority farming groups, here we go again, minority farming groups, and senators who will vote on his confirmation that he will work to root out generations of systemic racism. Well, how'd that work out? Did he root it out? Looks like it's still there to me. You have to be willing to tell people where to park. You have to be willing to say no. No. If you're going to this man who not only did he have this systemic, not only did he further, they show he cooked the books, right? You bring him back. We should have said no. If you bring him back, there will be no re-election for you, and we're finished. This conversation is over. If you can't say that, then you don't know how to wield power, and you're not comfortable wielding power, because sometimes wielding power means that you have to take a loss in the short run to get your respect and your. We say, and I said to we don't know who leaked the tape when Biden was in the White House, with the black groups. He was meeting with the NAACP, and we said we don't know. I think Biden them leaked them tapes. You remember the tapes where he said, y'all got to get together with the Hispanics. I'm going to put Vilsack in there and get out of my office and whatever. Basically, he was just like, well, child, whatever. Y'all remember that? And the tape got leaked. And everybody was like, what? Biden, I bet you the White House leaked it. We're going to show you how we still get to treat these blacks. Ain't got no power in here. Don't think nothing, child. Talk to them. And I'm going to put the audio tape out so everybody knows how I talk to them and how I deal with them. I'm sure whites, Hispanics, Latinos, a bunch of people got a whole bunch of giggles at the expense of Negroes who went inside the White House and had a conversation and didn't know how to wield their own power. You're only sitting here with your old self because of what we decided. You don't want to do your part. Well, whoever the Democrat is next time ain't gonna win. Well, what if it's not me? Well, they'll just be a sacrificial lamb because of what you did. That's just what it is. Well, that don't sound fair. Well, life ain't fair. Our 400 years in this country ain't been fair. Welcome to it. We want to share some of this unfairness so you see how it feels. How about that? Because that's politics. All this moralizing inside of politics, it don't really work that way. Because the big moral thing you get is by doing this thing. People say, well, that's not fair to Biden. No. Let's deal with the most unfair thing. There's a philosophical thing that we talk about a lot. And that philosophical thing is, I was a political science major and a philosophy minor. That philosophical thing we talk about is what is the most moral thing to do. Right? So yes, it may not totally be fair to Biden, but what is the most moral thing to do? Or what is the most immoral thing to do? The most immoral thing to do is to keep running and these millions of people who have been plundered. And the politics that we have needs to reflect that. And if the politics doesn't reflect that, it is a hollow ground. Do you understand me? Not hollowed, it is a hollow, empty politics that is beneficial to no one. And that is the reason, that is the only reason, as far as I'm concerned, why Adolf, when you ask, why are we here? We're the only game in town, that's why. How a bunch of people ain't figured this stuff out by now? This is, I mean, what have y'all been doing? So give me a second, fam. I'm almost to the hour, so I'm gonna go to break. But please, of those of you who have not done this, please go to joinados.com. please go to join.ados.com, joinados.com. If you have not signed up for, so hashtag claim the name, while you're online, even if you're just sharing something that's about ADOS and what we're going through, please do that, because we're fighting our fight at the OMB, because in order to really do this, we have to have disaggregation. And there's no way to have disaggregation without claiming the name. A great experience. It's great to see some familiar faces and to see some faces that are not familiar at all, that I didn't even know. And it's wonderful to see all y'all. Because even though I don't give all the trainings, I've given some of them. I gave one last week, and I'll be giving one more. But even though I haven't, I'm still in it. I just kind of watch. But it's been great. And so please please join our mailing list. Join ADOS.com as well, because everything that we do, be getting updates and different things from that mailing list. So make sure you go to joinados.com, right? And make sure you've gotten your training in, adosfoundation.org. So give me a few minutes to set up the phones. As usual, fam, we will be back and we will have the conversation. What is power? What does it look like? All that kind of stuff. Back. Let's go to a couple calls, and then I told you to be quick show. I'm going to 469. 469. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, man, this is Freeman in Dallas. How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Just tuning in. Great conversation as usual.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a couple quick tidbits that I was thinking about and listening to the show. Mm-hmm. You mentioned something about the Hmong, the Asian farmer.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
there was an interesting news story. It was actually a Vice story. And usually when it's Vice, it's usually sensational. You know, it's really sensationalized, but very, very interesting. There is an issue in Northern California regarding agricultural issues and farmland and things like that. They're basically saying now that Mexican cartels and Hmong farmers have basically taken over whole counties in Northern California. And the particular news story that I saw, I mean, it speaks to a larger problem that has always existed when it comes to the juxtaposition of our situation in this country as, you know, the first minority, if you will, and everybody else. It seems like everybody else gets to operate outside of the line so easily, and I guess the society here, white society here, has been able to be such wordsmiths. When they put the stories out, they switch it up so easily. Like you point out all the time, the title will be something about black farmers or black discrimination or whatever, and then they slip in everybody else. I was having a similar conversation with a brother of mine regarding an issue of an Indian tribe up in Minnesota, I believe, and basically the council of this particular Indian tribe are kicking certain members. This isn't like the black situation with the Choctaw, Chickasaw, whoever, but they're basically kicking certain members off of the land, and the language that they're using to craft it shows how important and how multifaceted these things are and how serious we have to be, because even the most minute details are thought out, you know, before being published. You know what I mean? Like the difference between saying 50 years and a half century, when you put it in a news story, is so so grand. And I'm starting to realize, I've always realized that, but in this conversation with my brother, I was like, wow, you know, the way that they throw things out, you really have to put your eye on it because they will slip it past you. And I think that that is related to what you're talking about with the discrimination against farmers, you know. And, I mean, it's what do we do? You know, what do we do? You know, I'm just going to sit and listen. I just wanted to throw those two tidbits in.
Oh, that's interesting, fam. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's real interesting. I didn't know that, child. But I mean, it's all that's the other thing about it, though, right? So like, we can't even. We'll be. That's why everybody says like, we know it's not black, but we'll be walking while black, or playing basketball, or at the grocery store. Other people just get to kind of navigate outside of the law, and like, it's just kind of like people not concerned. Even when I was kind of amazed when I was in LA. This has been like a couple years ago, but like there were people who were not ADOS who were like cooking barbecue and stuff like outside the road. I'm like, if we had ever tried to do that, somebody would come and like give us tickets and take us to jail for improper barbecuing, starting a fire, or arson risk. It's just like, how do you move when like the whole country is built in such a way to be anti-ADOS, but then when it comes to them, it's like, oh, well, they're new, they don't know. But it's just like, wait a minute, like, no, either we operate under the same rules or we don't, and obviously we don't.
Right. I mean, the Hmong, when I saw the story, they're basically stealing the utilities. They created their own utility regimes in these counties in Northern California because they're heavily involved in the cultivation of hemp and marijuana, which is obviously very big in that area. But I mean, other people have always, other minorities who can straddle the fence and at one moment be with us saying that they're being discriminated against, and then in the very next moment they're able to basically exert some, form of power, and I live in Dallas, Texas, and I'm bilingual, and, I hang with a lot of my neighbors are Hispanic, a lot of my friends are, and, I'm always, it's never a tiff, a very bad argument that we have, but I always ask them, like, man, y'all can straddle the fence. And somebody said, one of them said something so interesting to me one time. They said that, we're 50% oppressed and 50% oppressor, which has to do with the whole mestizo culture there. And I think that it really bears out when you see it here in the United States, socially. You really see that. And in one moment, it's this minority coalition, and in the very next moment, they have I mean, the power, they have their eyes, their sights on power. You know what I mean? I was just looking, because I find myself on news story, like I see a news story on the Hispanic Univision channel. It's a commercial for Toyota, and they talk about the Latino president, the first Latino president, trying to formulate that narrative, And I mean, I don't think that there's anything, necessarily wrong with that, but I think it's asymmetrical when on one hand it's this minority coalition, and we're the shock troops and put out front, and then everybody else is working, with ulterior motives and with their own devices. So.
Well, fam, I don't even think they're 50% oppressor and 50% oppressed. I think they can be whoever they want to be on any given day. Right? Because we know we have kind of outgrown this idea of melanin as the thing that's used to oppress people. Silicon Valley is full of a bunch of brown Indians who are darker than me. Right? And so it's not about melanin anymore. So they can be whoever they want to be on any given day. If I want to say I'm oppressed, especially if you just got here, and really what you're oppressed about if you just got here, that's usually a kind of an anti-new immigrant oppression. That's usually not a racial oppression, right? That's just you just got here. I know I can take advantage of you. That's not the same thing as a racial oppression. People need to let that go. But the second thing I would say is, if Negroes don't get their stuff together, if everybody don't get on board this ADOS movement, because this is the thing. What happens is you'll have your first Latino president before you have your first ADOS president. And don't tell me about your first black president, because he ain't us. They gave us him to mask the fact they couldn't give us. And they couldn't give us because they have not created an ADOS president. And even if they had, they would be scared of him. If America created an ADOS president, America would be scared of him because of what America has done to us and hasn't tried to fix. So they had to give us a fraud, and that's what Obama was. I ain't mad about it. I said it. And we bought into it because the man could mimic a preacher and all this stuff, and he was married to a woman who was ADOS. And so we bought it. But they're going to give you a real Latino president, and eventually they're going to give you a real Native American president.
Yvette, not to cut you off, but you bring up an interesting point. And let me ask you, do you think it would be worth, I'm saying this kind of jokingly, but do you think, because we know that they have this innate fear of an ADOS paradigm, a president or whatever, self-determination of the people that got kicked up the backside by their ancestors here in this land, do you think it would be worth us or a certain campaign saying, hey, we're not going to do that, this big payback that James Brown, was thinking about. Is that something we should make a part of the message?
Well, no, because they wouldn't believe us no way. I think what America has to do is do right by us. See, when you do right by somebody, they're not going to do it. Like the reason, white people have created their own fear, right? Because they know, and this country knows, even if you didn't do it individually, you don't have to do it individually to benefit from it. So I don't want to hear about what you did individually. This country knows what they've done, and they know they haven't corrected for it. The way you get rid of that fear is to correct for it. So then you know in your heart, really, the Negroes don't have any reason to be upset. We did reparations. We have a protective agenda, and they're doing really good. So we're really happy. So you have to, but the people who are creating the fear are the people who created the oppression. And they have to deal with that. There's some things in this country that only white people can fix. And I mean white people and the people who have immigrated into and who have assimilated into whiteness. I'm not just talking about skin color. You all know who you are. Like you have assimilated into whiteness, and you just run around and act like everything's okay too, and you act like you came from the bottoms, right? And regardless of when you got here, you clowning. You racist. You know how you behave, and you know what you do. And there's something wrong with all of you that has to be fixed. I can't fix it. I can fight it though, but I can't fix it. You all have to look inward and say, listen, I'm tired of living with this tension. I'm tired of living with this angst. I'm tired of knowing what this country has done and not fixing it. And it's going to come to a crescendo. And you have to pick your side in terms of that crescendo, because I'm telling you, the American problem, when America has some of its biggest problems, whether it's the Civil War, even the war on poverty, people upset because of what Negroes have got. Everything comes back to us. And I'm not talking about minorities. I'm not talking about people of color. I'm not talking about brown people. Everything comes back to Negroes. I don't care whether you're talking about the Civil War, the war on poverty, civil rights. It comes back to us, the civil rights movement, each and every time. And until you deal with it, America is going to be in the throes of something.
Hey, well, I'm here. Hey, we're still listening. I'm still listening. Go ahead and do your thing. I'm going to hang up, but, I mean, you're right on it. You're right on it. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, fam. Thank you for calling in. I'm going to my next call. I am going to 360. 360, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette. This
What's
is
up?
AJ out of North Carolina.
What's going on?
Not much. Hey, I can tell you what, as a military veteran myself, sister, I can tell you we are doing something about it. And literally, I just hear the calls. I love the energy tonight, and I love the topic. A couple of things. I wanted to shout out the last caller for emphasizing the importance of words. That's in the everyday language, and I think honestly, the way that between you and Tone, y'all have systematically taught us to scrutinize the details. We need to not only apply that to the numbers, to what people are saying as well, especially as ADOS, as we talk ADOS, as we carry out. A lot of it is just logical fallacy and a lack of understanding of our history from other people, especially as we move towards claiming a name. And I've just found that personally as I've interacted around my local community in seeing that. The other thing I want to say is in that Native American article, I think there was something really, really important in that you read, but I just wanted to reemphasize. They actually spelled out of all the things that they could designate some of that 680 million and 80 million for. They wrote advocacy as one of the things.
So they can advocate for their people as part of the monies?
680 million, and they made sure to spell out in that article advocacy.
And let me
some of that, everybody needs to know that advocacy is going. Some of that money.
And let me just point out the importance of something you just said about that advocacy. So if we have a let's say black farmers or ADOS farmers get however much money they get, and advocacy is a part of it, they should give some of that, because if you go look, I want y'all to go look at their website. The Native American grantees, they got a lot of grantees, right? They could conceivably or should give some of that money like to the ADOS Foundation, the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, right? And then like you don't have to necessarily rely on like just kind of kowtowing or whatever for a bunch of white dollars. You got your ADOS dollars over here from regular people. You got a little money from the farmers. You got a little money. Advocacy matters. But go on, fam. That was a good observation.
And in that it brought me to literally exactly that, which my next thing was, is the black farm. I don't know why the black farmers haven't reached out to ADOS and it gone that way in particular, because this does champion their cause. That it makes absolutely no sense. And our name is out there at this point, despite the shadow banning and everything else. I say ADOS. In fact, I'm going to shout out to Brother Christian Mosley as well. He's here from the state of North Carolina. He and I communicate all the time. He actually, at his city council meeting, said ADOS when specifically identifying, and that clip is out and going around from the minutes of that meeting, and it shook the room. He actually got a ovation at the end of his speech. You're going to have to check that out.
I will. Send it to me.
The black farmers should be reaching out to us.
Yeah, and if somebody in that organization or whatever wants to reach out, it's Yvette Carnell at ADOSFoundation.org. Reach out. We can have a conversation and figure it out.
Well, I know that their president is here in the state of North Carolina, so I'm going to personally take that charge, because this is serious. And I just want y'all to know that we're doing what you say. You know, a lot of times you may not hear it, but we out here doing it. And the last thing, just to let someone else kind of get in, is one. Oh, I think that you said the people who created the fear created the oppression. I think that needed to be resaid again, just because that's exactly it. And then I think through all of this, America, and then it's the only thing I may have some pushback with you on, is America has given us the first ADOS president and vice president, however it wanted to be split, and I think it is Tone and yourself.
Well, give me that White House then, and all the power that comes with
love
it.
You there.
All right, fam. I appreciate you. Yeah, I think I think we're gonna leave it there for the calls, fam. I appreciate you. But I think I think for too long. Let me go back to something that he pointed out that I said, and I want to go back to it before we close out. For too long, what we have done in terms of our ADOS politics is behave in a way. We've gone back and forth. So if you have like the Black Panthers, they behave in a way that they know might anger white people, right? In the sense of Negroes with guns, even though their reaction is just a reaction to like white oppression, right? But the way they dress, they're all black. They know, like, and they're like, well, screw it. Like, listen, whatever. Well, screw that. Like, that's how we react, because that's who y'all are. We trying to protect whatever. But we kind of went to the other side of the pendulum too. Where we are so desirous of proving to America, right, or white America, that we don't hold any animus, that we just kowtow in terms of our politics, and we're not full-throated. And there has to be some kind of place where you rest somewhere in the middle. Well, listen, I don't have to necessarily do a certain thing or behave in a certain way. I don't have to do either one of those things. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with what the Panthers did. But I understand what they were doing. They were saying, we're going to stand here in the face of oppression and violence, and we're going to we're going to be packing too. I understand that. That's advocacy though. I'm talking about in terms of the people who are in the room, in terms of politics. I'm talking about the person who goes to meet with the president or whatever. You still have to be willing. You still have to be willing to say what you want. It's almost like you got this person over here who won't say anything. We have activists who will say whatever, right? And say, I ain't scared of you, and if we got what it is. Then you got people who talk to politicians who are like, well, they might get mad, and we don't want to, and let's see how it go. And it's just like, that politics has to come somewhere closer to over here. Now, you can't be a Panther, but I'm saying it's like the full-throatedness of what we need, what has to happen in order to get our vote, and what we're willing to sacrifice if we don't get it. Like, that full-throatedness has to be there, and you can't be afraid of or I don't want to ignite white fear, because they created that fear. So the only person who can really neutralize that fear is them, and they can do that when they know they've done enough, when they know, or they're on the road to doing enough. That's really guilt you feel, and I can't get rid of it. It's in you because of what you have done in the path, that this glide path that your ancestors put you on, and you know you haven't put the brakes on, and you know you kind of benefit from inheritance and all this stuff and how society is structured, and you really don't want to put the brakes on, so you just feel good about being nice to the Negroes who are in your realm. And we're at a point where it's been a point, but like, our politics has to take us to a point where that's just not good enough. It's never been good enough, but our politics has to catch up to that not being good enough and stay there. So that's kind of where we are. Thank you, fam. We have reached the end of the broadcast. So I want to thank everybody. Please go to joinados.com if you have not. Please go to adosfoundation.org/claim the name if you still haven't gotten, if you haven't gotten a training for our OMB, for our claim the name training, so that we can disaggregate and not have this sort of flat blackness. We can be our own group. And then unmask the data, and so everybody can see what we're suffering from, and we don't look like it's all black and black people is doing bad, and we can see it. So we've been talking about this for years, and we need your help. So that's what it is. Anyway, fam, please keep it easy breezy. If you started a libation, finish it. Get to bed. Have yourself a wonderful night. If you are on Patreon, I will see you tomorrow night. If you are not, and that's patreon.com/ycarnell. Patreon.com/ycarnell. But if you're not on Patreon, I will see you in exactly 1 week. All right, fam. I'll put it up on my Twitter. Watch for something on my Twitter. I put it up last week, but just watch. I'm gonna put it up again. So anyway, because we outside stuff, fam, stuff that's gonna be outside, especially if you're in the Atlanta metropolitan area. Okay, all right. Anyway, fam, keep it easy breezy. Don't bother nobody. Don't let nobody bother you. And we will talk again soon.